As we said, Newsroom rolls out of Nepal, Kathmandu tonight. It's over to our managing editor, Rahul Kanwar.
Good evening and welcome. When we started the newsroom, we promised that this newsroom would travel to where the news is. And we're reporting tonight from the world-famous Darbar Square in Kathmandu, a UNESCO World Heritage Site now completely dilapidated. You can see some of those ferns, some of those petals on this building, they're still shaking because just moments before now, there was another aftershock. There's been a whole series of aftershocks. You can hear all the dogs in the vicinity barking. That happens usually after an aftershock, and we just witnessed one seconds before we started this broadcast. Right behind me, there are at least a couple of hundred people. If we can turn the light around and show you, there are people who are camping out in the open. These are people who stay in the vicinity of Darbar Chowk, but they're so concerned about their buildings having been weakened. They're so concerned about the possibility of yet another earthquake, so deeply scarred by what they've experienced, that they simply do not want to go back home. They don't have access to toilets, they don't have access to water or food, and yet they'd rather camp out than go back into their home. This is the Darbar Square area, home to some of the most historic temples of Kathmandu. Almost all of them, except for the Chota Pashupatinath, the Purana Pashupatinath temple, almost all of them reduced to debris. You can see some of it right behind us, the debris piling up. We've been told very strictly not to venture too close to this building because you can see there are big gaps in that building and this building can collapse at any time. We've been told not to go too close. Over the next 1 hour, we will get you on the newsroom all the ground reports that have been put together by my colleagues who fanned out to different parts of Nepal to report on this Himalayan tragedy for us. And I want to start with an aerial sortie that I undertook on an Mi-17 helicopter of the Indian Air Force. We went into a village up in the mountains where no one had been so far. It was exceedingly difficult for the pilot to be able to land his chopper, but once we landed, there were bodies, there were injured people who were brought in from all sides of the mountains, and that really reflects the enormity of the rescue efforts that have to be mounted here in Nepal. We are currently on board an Indian Air Force chopper that has just taken off from the Kathmandu airport. Behind us, rescue material being brought. This material is being taken by Indian Air Force choppers to the worst affected areas. With us on this flight are locals from Nepal. These people are from the villages that have been badly impacted. What the Indian Air Force is attempting to do is to take these people to their villages to carry medicine, food, water supplies, and also to evacuate those who've been injured and to bring them back to safety. You're watching Operation Maitri live on Headlines Today. Below us is Kathmandu, and you can see the effect of the devastation caused by the earthquake. Every inch of open land has been covered by tents. People have left their homes, they've gone into tents. All the parks, the fields, open areas, community areas have been taken over because people feel far safer under the open sky than they do in their own homes. Now left the city far behind us, and we are now right above the hinterlands of the Kathmandu Valley, and we see here village after village completely ravaged, destroyed by the earthquake. In the urban areas, the level of destruction is not quite as bad because the buildings are made of pakka material. They're made of concrete, they're made of brick, but here in the rural areas, in the hinterlands, on the mountains, most of the material used is not very resilient, which is why in several villages all the houses have been razed. If difficult for these helicopters to be able to land in these areas because there are cracks in the soil, and apart from that, there is no clear area where a helicopter like the one that we're on currently can land safely. Indian Air Force officers are currently carrying out a highly complex landing maneuver. There are no properly defined landing strips anywhere in this area. Even the few patches of open ground that you can see are very uneven, making it almost impossible for a big helicopter like the one that we're on currently to be able to land safely. But because these officers are determined to try and rescue the maximum number of people possible, therefore they are now attempting to land on a non-defined airstrip in an open area. This is a very, very complicated maneuver, and you can see the navigation officer trying to point out to the pilots the one open strip that he's been able to see where these pilots will now try and land. You can see the anxiety written on the faces of these youngsters who are desperate to get back to their homes, desperate to see what is left of their houses. With great difficulty, our Indian Air Force chopper has finally been able to land on this dry riverbed. These people have been sent with supplies which they will carry back to their villages. There are several villages over here on the mountain tops that have been completely ravaged. You can see also from there people trying to bring those who've been injured and hurt to these areas. That is what's being attempted. This is a very, very difficult area to be able to land, and with great difficulty the Indian Air Force has been able to land here. The moment they saw the Indian Air Force chopper land, the villagers rushing those who've been injured and hurt, old women, children, aged people being rushed to this helicopter. They've brought some rescue material with them, but there are several people for whom help hasn't reached so far. These people will now be taken back to Kathmandu on board the helicopter that we came in. That's the village behind us, which has been badly affected by this earthquake so far. They've not had any supplies coming in. This is the first time that anyone has been able to land over here, with the hope that all those who've been impacted can quickly be taken to Kathmandu. This is the Kindhang Beli village, completely devastated by the earthquake. Whether they are houses, whether they are shops, completely destroyed because of this 7.9 earthquake. Now, villagers here very, very concerned about what the future holds for them because they haven't had any relief supplies coming in. We're the first outsiders who've been able to make it to this village since this earthquake struck. This village is based on a riverbed, very close to the river, and you can see the scale of the devastation. The entire village, if my camera person you guys can just turn, the entire village razed to the ground. People here in huge amounts of trouble, now trying to figure out a way of being able to put their lives together. Entire houses in this area have been devastated. They do have some supplies in this small kirana store. That's what's keeping these people going, but these supplies are fast running out, and so far no one has been able to reach this area. You can see the scale of devastation and the fact that these people actually have building material which is of very poor quality, completely unable to last and withstand an earthquake of this magnitude. And that really is the problem, because the level of devastation is far more here in these remote villages than it is in the towns and cities of Nepal.
कितना कितना है नौसन तो बड़ी है ना घर भी नहीं है खाना का पीना का बांस घास थोड़ा भी कहीं नहीं है पकाने तो नहीं।
We have to be able to make it back to our helicopter very quickly because there are several sorties that the Indian Air Force team needs to carry out. This is just one village they've come to. There are several other villages too where help hasn't yet been able to reach.
Yeah, in this village, not only in this village, in this whole area, all houses are, most of houses are damaged, and many people are killed. Especially, as we know, in this Marpak BDC, more than in average, more than 20 people in a BDC has been expired.
देखो आप लोग आए हूँ बस इतना वो कर रहे हैं हम लोग को बहुत खुश हो रहे हैं अभी तक भी
कोई श्योर नहीं है कि अभी तक भी बोल सकते हैं, जा सकते हैं, बात सकते हैं करके किसी का कोई श्योर नहीं है। इतना आदमी है, कोई किधर बैठा है, किसी का कोई घर नहीं है। देखो आप लोग देखा होगा ना, किसी का घर नहीं है, क्या खाएगा, क्या किधर बैठेगा, क्या करेगा करके हम लोग कुछ नहीं है।
I've got Wing Commander Amit Sood with me right now. It's a very difficult, very treacherous terrain you've been able to land this helicopter in.
We have to take all precautions and follow our SOPs. And since this is a special exception, flood relief, so generally wherever we find we can able to manage to land a helicopter, we're able to put it down. So like you can see in this village, the lot of casualties and the whole valley, there's been destruction. And you can see for yourself.
You've also been doing sorties now for a couple of days. What's your sense of the scale of devastation? It seems to be far more in the remote villages than in the cities.
Yeah, that is generally the rule whenever such calamities take place, because the main cities are looked after, but as we go to the far-flung reaches and as the news comes, as the days progress, you come to know the extent of the damage, and presently it's quite a lot.
So you've been able to mount this one rescue operation. Lots of people who are desperately looking out for help. That help has been provided. How many such operations will you be able to mount through the day today, sir?
We will continue till, as you said last time, till our rotors continue to keep churning.
The Indian Air Force crew along with the Nepali army have taken the maximum number of people that they could, but this chopper is already full up. There's absolutely no space left. They've kept the fuel down to the bare minimum so they can carry the maximum number of casualties, but they will have to make another sortie because there are several other people who are still here, still injured, still need to be evacuated. This is going to be a very long and arduous rescue operation. Regardless of their own well-being, they're trying to ensure that they can do whatever it takes to try and help these villagers. Several people have now been evacuated. 15 injured people are on board this helicopter on their way back directly to Kathmandu. You can sense relief written on their faces. They're hoping that they will be able to get the medical treatment that they want. Some of them have their legs broken, some of them have their arms broken, mostly women and old people who were unable to get out when the earthquake struck.
We all are in combined. We are doing our best and coordinating with all agencies. We are doing our best.
What were the challenges that you faced in this particular rescue operation?
Mainly the terrain. It is very difficult, as we know. The terrain is very difficult, and mainly in the northern area, we have to rely on a helicopter. That's the main problem. In fact, the numbers are phenomenal. Yesterday we had 8 aircraft which had come in. Today 12 aircraft are coming in with full aircraft loads of relief material. The number of helicopters that we have deployed today, 6 helicopters are operating from this place, that is from Kathmandu. Another 2 helicopters have been placed at Pokhara. They'll start operating from there possibly today afternoon onwards or tomorrow onwards. In addition, 5 more helicopters are coming in into Pokhara, and another 2 aircraft are being landed at Pokhara with the loads. So with these 2 bases, we will be operating and providing the rescue and relief to the forward areas which are...
So we're also seeing over here some Pakistani aircraft, some Chinese planes, the Russians also come. We're also seeing some Bhutanese operations. How does India's rescue operation compare with those being mounted by other countries?
In terms of size and scale, we are far more in numbers. In fact, if we in case today we are landing 12 large aircraft, that is C-17 and C-130 class. In the other countries, they are landing about 1 aircraft a day. So you know the difference in scales.
In its truest sense, Operation Maitri is a joint exercise being mounted by the Indian and the Nepalese forces. The bonds between the Indian and the Nepali armed forces are very old, and those ties can see play themselves out in this hour of crisis here in the Kathmandu Valley. The Indian Armed Forces working in close proximity with their colleagues and counterparts in the Nepali army to ensure that those who've been evacuated from the village that we've just come to are now immediately rushed for medical help. We've seen the kind of rescue operation that is being mounted by the Indian Air Force and the Indian Army. This is Operation Maitri. But what about the requirements and needs of the Nepali people? There was a high-level meeting this evening at the Ministry of Home Affairs where all the senior ministers got together to take stock of the situation. I managed to get a word in with the Information and Broadcasting Minister Mahinda Rijal, and here he spells out what Nepal needs at this time. For the powers that be that are watching all across the world, here is Nepal's wish list. And if you wish to contribute in your individual capacity as well, there are several things the minister says the people of Nepal need, and he's hoping that you could be one of those who help out. To give us a sense of how the government in Nepal sees the current rescue and rehabilitation operations, we are joined now by Mahinda Rijal, the Information and Broadcasting Minister in the government of Nepal. He's with us. Sir, our thoughts and prayers with the people of Nepal. Give our viewers a sense of where you believe the relief and rehabilitation operations are.
We are still at the rescue and relief operation. Rescue operations going on, even within the valley. Collapsed structures are a major challenge still. I mean, there are requests for many places. We've been able to attend to some. We still are trying to put together the group of people. Here, expertise is needed from various areas. So the group of people...
A lot of help pouring in from all across the world, from France, India, China, the United States. What does the government of Nepal wish to tell the outside world? What is it that you need at this time the most?
Some are already providing assistance. They're out on the field already. But from many others, there has been a commitment. Now, we move slowly we move from rescue operation to more of a relief operation. For relief operation, medical supplies are important. Drinking water is important. Experts who can come and restore electricity is very important. Without electricity, hospitals cannot function. More medical supplies, medical doctors who have specialty in handling situation of this sort, orthopedics, surgeons, anesthetists of that sort are needed. So at this stage, what we'll say is there are standard operating procedures as far as relief operations are concerned. So we need support for relief operations. Body bags are needed. More and more medicines are needed because, I mean, once this process is over, there are a number of people who have lost homes, who will be staying in the camps. We do not have enough tents. We're hoping to get more and more tents. We've received regular plastic covers which would cover people from the open sky. But
what does the government of Nepal think of the efforts being mounted by the Narendra Modi government in India? And what more or what different would you like to see the Modi government do, sir?
We're pretty happy with the support we have received. Prime Minister of India has been very cooperative. I mean, we know his thoughts and prayers are with people of Nepal. But at this stage, CSSI rescue team is going to be important. Some rescue missions are important. Helicopters, we have received 6 helicopters, but there are certain problems for helicopters to land in the rugged terrain that we have. But that probably will be resolved by tomorrow. But more importantly, many people who have lost houses will need relief operation. Anything that directly helps the relief operation is what we need the most at this time.